Hello, I'm John Furrier with theCUBE. Here at theCUBE's NYSE studios, of course, we have our Palo Alto studio connecting Silicon Valley and Wall Street. It's part of our NYSE Wired brand and community. This is our AI Factory series where we talk to the leaders who are making it happen and bringing in the future of these AI factories that are going to enable the AI native application revolution. Certainly the agentic wave is upon us. Greg Matson's here. He's the Senior Vice President, Head of Marketing and Products at Solidigm. Greg, great to see you again. CUBE alumni, welcome back to our set here at the NYSE.
Oh, love to be here, John. You know, it's super exciting to be in NYSE.
So you're friends with everyone these days because you have the most important product that everybody wants. It's in tight supply. You know, the memory business is what's really powering a lot of the GPUs and the XPUs and all that compute. NVIDIA's success, ARM's success, AMD's success, all these semiconductor companies that have that compute that's powering the AI revolution need storage.
And who would have thought, right? Like, the GPUs have been in the headlines for the last couple of years, right? And no one thought about storage, along the way. And today it's, the hottest commodity, I think, and I don't want to say commodity actually, but the hottest product.
It's an asset class.
It's a huge asset class. And, with the increase in compute power led by NVIDIA and others, it's really putting huge demands on storage infrastructure and creating a massive amount of demand for us.
The impact of storage, obviously, in every conference I've been to that's been in AI infrastructure, storage gets closer and closer to the crown jewels, and the systems are getting denser, tighter, engineered supercomputers. I mean, basically the NVIDIA racks and all the clusters that we're seeing are designed architecturally to be optimized for high velocity, low latency data transfer. This is where storage is key. Now, the expensive storage is HBM, high bandwidth memory, but then now you're starting to see storage being re-architected. Take us through what's the key driver to the success of Solidigm right now. Is it the fact that you got the form factor and the architecture? Take us through why this is so hot right now.
There's multiple levels to this, right? There's storage that is attached to the GPUs. So that's driving very high performance, liquid cooled storage that feeds GPUs directly. And then there's network attached storage, that's very high capacity and space efficient, power efficient storage. We're the leader in high capacity storage for AI. We were the first to market with our 122 terabyte SSD about a year and a half ago, and still the primary shipper of that capacity to the AI industry. But what's happened over the past 2 years is GPUs eat data. Like that's they're AI is all based on data. It sucks in as much data as you can possibly have. You're doing inference, you're creating information, and when you're doing an inference run, you need data immediately accessible. And so what's happened is that you need context to be stored, or more context. You're blowing out of the HBM and the DRAM in terms of capacity. And now storage, NVIDIA has actually announced a whole new context memory extension reference design, so that storage now is an extension of the memory within the GPU.
Yeah, I love this. I love this topic. It's something we've been talking about in theCUBE for 2 years now. It's actually happening, and we've all seen it. If we've been online and used ChatGPT or any one of the big frontier models, we've all seen the experience where sometimes it's smarter than others. It remembers things, or it has chat history.
Yep.
We've all seen it when it didn't work. Well, it kind of redoes the same thing. That's the memory working. And this is not just the compute and GPUs. The memory plays a significant role. Has to infer, does that. So it's getting better and better. We've seen that. I mean, the past 6 months alone, the models have been coming out, have been phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's powered by storage.
Powered by storage, absolutely. And if you imagine if you've loaded you're in ChatGPT, you're writing code, and you've loaded your code base in there, and then all of a sudden it disappears. And you have to recompute that. Well, your GPUs are idle at that time. And so that's why this whole KV cache infrastructure and context memory extension, phenomenon has happened is because now you can actually store that context. It's permanent,
Yeah.
and you can go right back to your task, if you take it offline.
NVIDIA's done an amazing job. You pointed that out, and the KV cache from 2 years ago when it got announced. No one really. I was like, that's going to be the magic. It was. That takes us to the changing landscape and your partners. First of all, your form factor is phenomenal. I've covered on theCUBE many times. People have seen the videos. I mean, you got terabytes the size of like this big.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what's the biggest capacity, smallest form factor you have right now?
So right now we have 122 terabytes is the largest capacity. We're developing the next one, twice as big, and even the next one after that, 4 times as big.
Yeah.
That you'll see soon.
Smaller, faster, cheaper, as they say, has always been a nice model in semiconductors. But the impact of the ecosystem is phenomenal. I interviewed Renan at Vast, his founder, and these neoclouds are building out. You're starting to see the role of software, and Vast and DDN and others. They talk about this OS. They treat storage not as like I'm in the storage category. They call it a data platform, whatever they call it. Some call it a pipeline or whatever they want to call it. But the bottom line is it's software. It's an operating system. So you start, and Vast actually uses that word, operating system. That changes the game too. So talk about that impact as you're enabling, and the AI infrastructure is enabling a new paradigm in storage, which will affect the neoclouds, affects the hyperscalers.
We've had a long-standing partnership with Vast, since the beginning. And they built their operating system on top of our highest capacity SSDs in the market. And that combination of the magic of their software and their AI operating system combined with our high capacity SSDs has really been a phenomenon, especially in the AI era, and adopted super widely in the neoclouds and AI factories.
And the impact for that, it goes up the stack to the applications. We're seeing a huge amount of new kinds of services. I was talking with Anand, who runs the AI competency lab here at the NYSE, and ICE, the parent company, and they're seeing services they've never seen before. They can now get there in the data services business, all kinds of applications. Share some of the high-level applications that's being enabled from this dynamic that you're creating.
Well, if you think about high-frequency trading and messaging, data is, obviously creates money here, right? And we've been partnering with NYSE to deploy super high capacity storage in their newest data platform. So it's been very exciting for us.
Yeah, I mean, they've been very progressive. They got all poly market deal. Data's changing. Talk about the landscape from your standpoint. Obviously, you're pedaling as fast as you can to make as much of it. This huge demand curve. Talk about the supply demand. What's the current state of the demand? I know it's high, but scope the order of magnitude of the demand curve.
The demand is like something we've never seen. To be honest, the storage market has been, pressed for supply like something that's never happened before. And it's kind of a tectonic and permanent shift in the ecosystem because, this whole AI era, again, needs data stored in storage. And for us, we can sell twice as much easily today. And I don't see it stopping. We need, somewhere in the order of 25 to 35 exabytes of storage per gigawatt of data center capacity. And so think about then the hundreds of gigawatts that have been announced, through say 2030. Yeah. It's a revolution in the storage industry, and it's not something that's going to go away anytime.
Talk about your relationship with the neoclouds. Obviously, you guys have good relationships with all the suppliers, people who put the AI factories together, from the manufacturers and the assemblers, but also the neoclouds have emerged on the scene. Of course, you got AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, Oracle, you name it. Every cloud and the hyperscaler that's out there, they're buying. But now you have the neocloud. You mentioned CoreWeave before we came on camera. I just wrote a post around a company called Argentum, which has got this new model around financing. This is an explosive area, and sovereign cloud is only going to, and sovereign AI is only going to accelerate more build out. So this neocloud seems to be a hot area.
Hugely hot. Of course, we're partners with the hyperscalers that you mentioned and deploying AI storage in a big way there. But we're also focused on neoclouds because we do see that they can be a growth factor. And in fact, some analysts predict that they might be as much as half of the GPU as a service market by like 2030. And so we have to be part of that ecosystem. And we're partnered very closely with CoreWeave, for example, that you mentioned, and many others in the market and globally, both in Europe, Middle East, and of course the U.S.
How is since you mentioned, how is the build out vibe going in Europe and Middle East? Obviously, we see a lot of activity there. Still smoking hot. No turning back at this point. They're still on full throttle.
Turning back. I mean, we're still catching up to the U.S. U.S. is leading the AI build out from a neocloud perspective, but the evolution and innovation in Europe and Middle East is definitely hot.
I'm sure you get this a lot because we see it on theCUBE. The AI native world's exploding, seeing the developers, even at NVIDIA, they rarely talk about, I don't know, consumerization, but like OpenClaw is a big part of the NVIDIA GTC keynote, highlighting what agents will look like. And again, NVIDIA's interest there was to show the world, like, look at, we're enabling this wave of agents. And we saw the coding with agents happening in the enterprise. We think agents going to come right back in. So the question comes in, what's the ROI on all this? So there's a lot of capital being deployed. You guys are making a lot of money on that. Of course, you're a key ingredient in the architecture. The role of CFO has come into mix. So the ROI question has come up at the C-suite because tokens are going to be doing work. It's an economic value proposition, not an IT CapEx spend only. What's your view on this? I know you have an infinity to the business side of it here, running product and at Solidigm. And what's your take on this ROI equation? How should people frame this? What is the frame? How should we think about it?
Well, it's a evolution of, or actually probably I'd say a revolution of your business, right? You can't just give everyone ChatGPT or Copilot and expect something to happen. It really is. It starts with people and processes. You have to reinvent your processes. First, you have to figure out your processes, and reinvent them. In a kind of AI first mindset, and then you can get tremendous benefit in terms of productivity per person, right? So the way we look at it is we're not trying to reduce people or save something. We're trying to increase.
Yeah.
And for our perspective, it's shrinking software development timelines, so we can get our products out sooner for our customers, and even chip design. We're putting that in place in a big way.
I'm sure there's a lot on the roadmap. You can't tell me, but I'll try to ask anyway. Outside of the demand curve, what's the biggest change since we last spoke last year? We're almost a year since you were on theCUBE. Obviously the demand and the supply, obvious. What other factors have changed the most in the industry, in your opinion, what's your perspective?
Well, I mean, from a storage perspective, is that it's now in everyone's line of sight, right? It was an afterthought. In traditional compute, storage was necessary, but not the first thing you thought of. And even at the beginning of AI, especially in the training era, storage was not thought of. And now in the inference and the agentic era, where we need data at hand, immediately available to the GPUs, that has changed everyone's thought about storage. I mean, you heard Jensen say it at GTC, storage just got a promotion. And, so for us, it's now the key ingredient to having a super efficient, highly productive, and getting your best ROI out of AI.
I was in the room, I saw the slide, had all the storage manufacturers up there. I said to Dave Vellante, I'm like, Dave, who will be standing in 5 years? Because there will be a shakeout. Not everyone will cross that chasm. I mean, there's a mindset involved in this new era. You just highlighted it. Storage is not an afterthought anymore. It's a primary asset in the build of the architecture. It is front and center. The top architects, the top deployers, or top builders and operators want to know the storage. So, what is that mindset that is needed to compete and win in the future?
Well, you have to think about the future because we're not even started. Think about, anyone listening to this, right? How much agentic activity is happening in your company? It's barely scratching the surface. So you have to design for the future. And you need high capacity, high performance, power efficient storage to make sure that your investments, big investments in AI, both from a process and people perspective, but at the infrastructure perspective, pay off big.
Well, Greg, it's great to see you guys. I'm a big fan of Solidigm. Your product is exceptional. Everyone talks about it because it's high quality, it's smaller, it's faster, form factor is amazing. You're making it bigger. I got ahead of myself this Mobile World Congress, or MWC they now call it. I published the Hyperconverged Edge report, basically saying that there's going to be an AI factory at the edge, and that's going to be a smaller form factor. But, you know, the edge providers like the telecoms and the carriers, they all have infrastructure. They got towers, they got central offices. You can put boxes in there and systems in there. Maybe a little too early, but that's coming.
We're seeing the same challenges that you have at the hyperscalers, the very biggest AI deployers in the world right now. Same thing. You could even go down to a hospital, and they have space constraints, they have power constraints, and but they need big data. Like you could dramatically improve patient outcomes if you have a massive amount of storage in a small space. And so we're actually seeing the exact same thing across the spectrum of customers.
And just to give the validation of that, not to reinform my thesis, but I think everyone would agree. Amazon's rebooting Outpost. Google's now selling distributed cloud for these use cases. That feels like a data center. It is a data center. It's a factory.
It is.
So, and it is constrained by footprint. So premium space and form factor matter the most. What would you say to that when someone says, hey, we can't afford to put the space here? You anticipate drives to be smaller, faster, cheaper enough to handle the edge?
Absolutely. We're focused on the edge. We've been partnering with research institutions, for example, colleges, universities, hospitals, and deploying incredibly dense storage in very small form factors. I mean, our drive, might be 60 or 122 terabytes, but you put a series of those drives in a 2U server, and it's massive amounts of storage for an institution, and it takes up almost no space. I mean, it's a 2U server.
Like a telephone closet back in the day.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was talking to the NVIDIA guys a couple of years ago, and I saw the demo of the operating room of the future. And it was cameras, sensors, and they had all this data. They ran a digital twin of it in Omniverse, and they had a simulation of everything that could go wrong with the surgery. You had other doctors coming in remotely and robotics doing the surgery. I mean, that's very Star Trek, Star Wars-like.
Right.
I mean, think about the data processing that. You got computer vision, you got sensors. That's not going to go backhaul. That's got to stay local.
It's got to stay local.
They might bring models on-prem. So there's a lot of distributed computing going on here.
Yeah, because your storage needs to be close to your compute, right? I mean, it not in all cases does it have to be immediately there, but your latency is important. And having that data, and that you described a very high pressure environment, right? Yeah. The operating floor, and
well, the agentic infrastructure is booming right now. You've seen the control plane, the AI native developer community's on fire. The Linux Foundation just started the Agentic AI Foundation, which is going to sit on top of the Cloud Native Foundation, which we're a part of. We expect this to be a very active market to take advantage of the memory, the reasoning, all those things that's needed to have that storage that's close to the processor, and then right next to it, you guys do. So, congratulations and thanks for coming on theCUBE.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, John.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
I'm John Furrier. This is breaking down the AI factories. This is like an under the hood series because there is so much activity going on under the hood inside these factories that making them go faster. You're starting to see it in the results of the big foundation models and the cloud providers and the neocloud, the new kinds of clouds. They're optimizing their systems to make it go faster and be smarter and put intelligence into all the applications. And this is the big trend, and Solidigm's leading the way. I'm John Furrier, doing our part to share the data with you. Thanks for watching.